AskReddit by Dave BU. What is just not the flex that people think it is? Boasting about how much drinking and smoking weed they can do. Having a high tolerance is ass. You're paying more to get to the same point. Grinding crazy hours, not taking holidays, 60-80 hour weeks and no holidays. Public accountants, looking at you. My cousin's husband always brags about what a manly man he is and how he's never changed his daughter's diaper, bathed her, put her to bed. Their daughter is coming up to 1 year old and he never fails to brag about it every family gathering. I'm not sure why he sees it as a flex. Basically bragging about being a terrible father. Used to have a friend like this. I said, "Congratulations on admitting that you've only contributed the 30 seconds it took to conceive them and nothing else." He just looked at me all bug-eyed like. Deleted. Those people are also dumber than a doorknob. My co-workers flexing their $900 car payments for new cars they didn't need to buy with high interest rates. I was in a forum where some dude was bragging about his $3,000 car payment. My mortgage on my house and my rental is less than that. He claimed he could write off 100% of it as a business expense for his wife's business. He was doing a whole lot of things wrong. I'm my own boss. MLM participant. Knowing a couple of people who actually started non-pyramid scheme businesses. Being your own boss really isn't all it's cracked up to be. All of them will kind of just disappear for a few months like, oh sorry, I've been working 16+ hour days, got a couple of new clients and had a contractor quit. Even if it's not an exploitative scam, being your own boss, if you are still in a position where you have to respond to someone's needs, just clients rather than a boss, just sounds awful. Never taking your PTO. My dad argues with me all the time. Off again? I don't know how you can do that all the time. You've taken off more this year than I have in the past decade. I earned it. I pay my dues. I go to work. This is what we get. Oh, so just because you have the time, you just have to use it? Damn right. He is maxed out on PTO, and it's use or lose. He just loses it every year. And talks shit about his co-workers that burn the difference, like oh he does that all the time. I don't see the point of taking vacation just to burn the time. It's not like they are actually going on vacation. Being a top earner in an MLM. I'm Zephyr Amethyst tier, I'll have you know. One-upmanship. Good grief. People think making someone else look less than them makes them cool. No, it makes you look insecure. I have a lovely friend who does this. For example, a few years back I ran my first 10k in a little under an hour. When I told everyone, my friend responded with, "I ran my last 10k in 35 minutes. It wasn't even that hard." Well, no shit, Bethany, you're a professional fucking triathlete. Do you know who my dad, mom, or parents are? No, no one cares. They are asking. They don't know. Help the clueless in need. Do you know who my father is? Yes, well done. Your father did well for himself. What have you done? Ironically, my dad is a respected somebody in our little corner of the world. I've spent my life not introducing myself as his son, from the time I was a kid. Problem is I look like his clone, so lots of people always seem to know before I even open my mouth, and that often leads to them treating me as an extension of him rather than my own person, and I hate that feeling. Oh, you work 40 hours a week? I remember my first part-time job. Fuck you. Haha, what? Is this a thing? Us. Being proud about being brutally honest when they're just rude. I'm just brutally honest with people. Proceeds to make rude subjective comment that is usually a dishonest front to cover their issues. They're the worst. When adults brag about high school sports achievements like that's their whole personality. Yeah, it just sounds like Al Bundy talking about how he scored 4 touchdowns in one game at Poke High. Coming to work sick. Proclaiming you're an alpha male. In fact, it makes you look like a complete idiot and everyone hates you. This always reminds me of the Tywin Lannister quote, "Any man who must say I am king is no true king." These idiots that ride motorcycles ATV super fast and recklessly down city streets doing wheelies and swerving in and out of traffic. What annoys me is that those guys aren't ever the ones I see getting tickets. It's always the poor dude driving 10 miles an hour over the speed limit just trying to go to the grocery store or whatever. The I never take a day off types who live at work. How bad does your home life have to be? Working for one of those types is the worst. Bruh, I'm such an alcoholic, I can drink X amount of alcohol. Ugh, that was me in my 20s. I was absolutely a functioning alcoholic. Downing a handle WK, plus wine and beer. No wonder I put on 60 pounds. Dropped it all since, thankfully. Used to brag about drinking everyone under the table, and then it kinda dawned on me that I might actually have an addiction problem. So glad that it didn't take a more severe wake-up call like hospitalization for overconsumption or something like that. Having a huge, expensive wedding when you're not a wealthy person. My first wedding was done on the cheap and we flexed about that 4 years after. We loved bragging about how much we didn't spend. And to perfectly bookend the story, the divorce was amicable so we didn't spend much on that either. How many followers you have? If they disappeared tomorrow, nobody would even blink. They'd just watch some other idiot. CrossFit. As a nurse that has worked in orthopedic surgery, a lot of our surgical procedures are repairing injuries from CrossFit. Before I really got into weightlifting, I was finding avenues to be more active and lose some weight initially. Couldn't get into running, so I looked into CrossFit momentarily, followed the big YouTubers to try and get a feel for the culture and noticed that without fail, every single one of them, and pretty much everybody they knew, had at one point gotten a serious injury. Not an elevate and put on ice injury, I'm talking surgery and rehab. Felt like a massive red flag. And now that I'm into weightlifting, I understand how much more dangerous CrossFit is than I initially thought. Working 60 plus HRS a week and grind mentality. Don't get me wrong, I like OT. Especially because all of my OT is double time and I like making the big bucks from time to time, but trying to flex that you work 60 plus HRS per week and saying that anything less than 60 hours is part-time is just plain stupid. You are working your life away, spending more time away from your family. And it shows just how underpaid you really are. You think you're tired? Try working 70 hours a week. Me, lol, no. Owning a Range Rover. I have one. It's nearly 10 years old. Done 77k miles and drives like shit. But it's the chariot of a golden god. How big their mortgage is. Dude, you're just bragging about how crippling your debt is. Lol, I have a friend who told me their mortgage was $1.3 million. Come to find out it was actually a $700k mortgage that her husband told me on a separate occasion. Like, while I let alone brag about it. Sleepers for the week. No sleep is so valuable and frankly the more you can get the better you'll be. Sex, heart and mental health. All improved. Also if sleep is a luxury, you can sleep more easily if you don't work 2 jobs to make ends meet, then sleep and rest are big flexes. I always boast I get 8 hours of sleep last night to my co-workers, lol. It might be around 5 hours really, but having them livid with me having a healthy life is a chance I won't miss. People who describe themselves as an empath in the first few minutes of meeting them. Most just have a lot of unresolved trauma and talk incessantly about themselves. Couples that are miserable bragging how many years they have been together. They always use their anniversary to talk about how much they can't stand each other, too. We've had our ups and downs and we often don't get along. But between all the yelling and fighting and breakups we've made it work. Love you, babe. Thanks for doing life with me. Happy anniversary. It's weird AF. Driving around in a super loud vehicle such as a low-riding Scion with glass backs. If you own one of these, you look like an asshole and everyone hates you. I'll add having a loud stereo to the list. Ran into one the other day and I could feel the bass as much as I could hear it. If you need to ruin your ears, get some damn earbuds and leave the rest of us out of it. Teachers bragging how some high percentage of the class fails every year. Deleted. How little you slept last night. That sounds more like a complaint than a flex. I haven't read a book since high school. This is not a flex. Not being interested in reading, having issues with it or having had shitty teachers ruining it for you is one thing, but saying it like you're proud of it tells me a lot about the type of person you are. None of it is good. I was about to say this. Why even brag about something like that? Anti-intellectualism is a huge turn-off. Not wearing your seatbelt. Not using sunscreen. Bragging about how many people you've slept with. Bragging about how little sleep you've got this night. Congratulations. You'll be dead sooner than the rest of us who practice typical safety and long-term health habits. Blindly supporting a political party. You are a clown. Saying you make more money than somebody in an argument. Showing off expensive outfits. Nobody really cares how much your outfit costs unless you're at a fashion show or event. This is coming from someone who likes to look good in outfits. I work in healthcare. People who say my daughter, husband, neighbor's cat 2 doors down is a doctor, IDGAF. Does that mean you've instilled their medical knowledge and experience through osmosis? I will treat you the same as every other patient, although the type of person who says stuff like this is usually the biggest obstacle to their treatment. Personally, I would give a fuck about a cat doctor. Being a dickhead to people. I remember overhearing this one co-worker at an old job bragging about how he made a customer cry. He was gathering carts in the parking lot, saw this one lady looking like she wanted to ask him for a cart. He said he ignored her and passed her without a word, heard her start crying, and laughed. He was proudly telling this to someone he had a crush on. He apparently cried when his crush married someone else. Nobody felt bad for him. Bragging how you never took a sick day in your entire life and how anyone who does can't handle themselves. I'm not sick, it's just allergies. Fuck off with that. We're like family here. We're co-workers who work for an organization that pays us money on a contractual basis. Relationships will always have a limit. It's not family. And if you feel like it is, you might want to protect yourself. People who say they don't read instructions. Only possible time this is a flex is when it comes to Legos. Blaring your bump-in sound system that costs more than the shitty car you've put it in while you sit parked outside your home for hours on end. Your system ain't that impressive and neither are you, bro. Hustle culture. How many extra hours you've worked. How bad your temper is. Truck nuts. Much more hilarious if they're attached to something other than a truck. Like a Prius, or a bicycle. Drinking large amounts of alcohol. Listing your job title as CEO of the business you own, when you are the sole employee. It's actually something that gets debated on small business forums. What to call yourself? CEO, MD, manager, just owner? Personally, I'd be amused at someone who had business cards where their title was their name. Something like Bob's Widgets, I am the Bob. People that post pictures of found out $100 is on social media. 1. Why do you have $1,000 cash? Put that in an ISA at least. 2. Are we supposed to be impressed by $1,000? That's almost depressing. Does anyone think those dictatorship military displays that look like a circus act are a flex? If anyone does think that, I'm here to tell them those at the flex they think it is. How many times they've been arrested? Gucci anything. Branded clothing anything. After having worked in the industry, I care a lot less about which brand is largely printed on your item of clothing, and a lot more about the stitching and the feel of the fabric.